What's up, guys? Thanks for checking out the video today. So today's video is going to be about some paint and as far as stripping and refinishing some valve covers. A few of the valve covers that I'm going to do are going to be related to the Evos, and then I have a sort of a center garnish for an RB26 that I've probably been 3 years late painting this thing. I had the valve covers for my RB26 build painted, but I never did do the center garnish that covers the spark plugs. And so I need to get that done today too. So when I do strip and repaint things, I do certain things that not everyone does. I will go over them in today's video. I use chemical strippers a lot, so that's what I'll be using today. And further to that, I do use a mixture of single stage and base clear. And so I'll be using a single stage red, Evo 9 red on the Evo, one of the Evo valve covers. And then I'll be using a base clear on both the center garnish of the RB26 and one other 4G63 valve cover that I will be adding -12 vents to, because it's going to be going on a 2.2 liter Tomei stroker build that I have coming up for one of my cars. So all that's going to be in today's episode. It's going to be sort of a paint and body type episode. So as well, it tells you how to go about taking out the baffles for the valve covers, which is a pretty important thing to know how to do, especially if you don't want to get junk into your brand new engine. So yeah, so stay tuned for that today. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that bell to make sure you get my regular updates. As well, please visit me on Instagram at WrenchRampage. Checking out the video today. So I have two 4G63 engines coming. The bottom ends are out of the machine shop, so I'm gonna have to assemble some long blocks soon. So what I realized is that I don't have any really nice valve covers for these engines. So what I'm gonna be doing, I have a bunch of these twin cam valve covers, and I think I have probably 5, and they're just sitting around. So I also have the coil pack cover for my RB26 here as well. What I'm going to do is strip these down and repaint them, because yeah, they look terrible. So the finish themselves is horrible. It's lifting everywhere. These are aluminum, and these are going to be some sort of an aluminum alloy or even some sort of pot metal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use aircraft stripper, and I'm going to strip these, and then the idea is that I'm going to etch prime them, and then I'm going to paint them. And so I don't like doing powder coating, especially on anything valve train related, just because there's a high possibility that that grit is going to get inside the valve train or behind a bearing. So I would rather just not deal with it at all, and I use aircraft stripper. Way messier, way more labor, but your engine's not going to implode on itself because some grit gets behind a bearing. So that's why I use this stuff. So that's going to be today's project, repainting these guys. All right, so things are progressing here. I'm melting the paint off. So the garnish for the RB26 is pretty much done. I'm gonna have to neutralize it with soap and water here before I handle it. And I'm working on this one right now. This one's getting there as well. So, man, this stuff makes such a mess, but boy, it allows for a nice nice finish. At least I don't have to deal with a bunch of sand scratches from sanding this stuff off, nor do I have to deal with dust. So the alternative is chemical goo.
But luckily this stuff can be neutralized with water, so it's not so bad. You just have to make sure it doesn't get on your skin or in your eyes. So yeah, so the next step would be to clean this off, and after that it's going to be fine detailing with a piece of sandpaper, just getting the little tiny remnants. After that I would hit it with probably, I don't know, 320, and then go over it with an etch primer. I don't think I'll need any high build primer or anything like that. So after the etch primer, then I can just throw on some regular primer over top of the etch and lightly sand it, as long as I don't get any sort of runs, and then top coat it. So that's the process. The top coat will be over top of 600. That's the final scratch before the top coat. And then I would do a clear, because I'll do a base clear on these to just get them some luster. So, all right, so back to scraping off the slime. Okay, so the valve covers are pretty much stripped, so let's take a look here. Okay, so this is the GTR one here. So one of these, I'm going to have to pull the baffles, and the reason being is that I'm going to have to drill out these vents. So because one of these valve covers is going on a E85 powered stroker build, I'm going to have to put in some bigger vents. And so for that, the baffles do have to come out, because I'm going to be drilling, and I'll be drilling right into the baffle area. So for this, I am going to have to drill out the baffles. I'll show you guys how to do that. And we'll install some big vents, like some -12 vents off of the valve cover, just so that we can control some of the crankcase pressure when we're running, 700 horsepower, somewhere around there. So this is going to be upcoming on an upcoming stroker build here that's I'm going to be doing. Yeah. So what we're going to do is pull some of the baffles, and we'll go over that. All right, guys. So next up here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this for the stroker build. This one's going to go on toasty, fresh paint on a new engine going in toasty pretty soon, I hope. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to take care of is the baffles. So now if you flip this over, okay, so these are the baffles. Now, because I'm going to be drilling into this cover, and I'm going to be welding up some AN fittings on it, I'm going to be concerned about getting some metal behind these. So what I'm going to have to do is remove them. That way this can be cleaned properly. With this guy, because I used a chemical stripper, I don't have to worry. I'm not going to drill anything. I'm just repainting it. This guy, these have to come out. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Okay, so as far as the baffles are concerned, this is how I do it. There's a bunch of ways of doing this. The way that I prefer is this. So what we have here is a bunch of like little steel rivets, and what I do is I take a die grinder, knock the head off, and make it about flush. Okay, so here's an example right there. Now after that, I take a good sharp drill bit, and I drill just down a tiny bit, so it's probably like a millimeter or so. The drill bit that I'm using is 7/32, and now there is a little bit of silicone around the edge, but there's not a lot. So what you can do is you can reach through one of the vents here and just gently pull up, And what'll happen is the silicone will let go if you just gradually pull. And there you got the baffles right there. Now this gives you an opportunity to give it a good clean, because there will be some sludge in there. But this is where, if you get a valve cover blasted, that a lot of that blasting grit gets in there, and then it'll take out your valve train or your engine. So yeah, these are good. It's a good idea to remove these. So it is a bit of work. So you pull those off. What you're left with is these posts. Okay, you drill and tap those, and then throw this back on and put some bolts in there with some Loctite. There is a few other ways of doing it, but bolts with red Loctite is probably gives me some confidence anyway. Okay, so we have the baffles out, and so now every point where there was a rivet, what we're going to be doing is drilling that out, and we're going to tap it. So probably you'd want to go a bit smaller than what we had used for the drill bit. So I was using a 7/32, I believe, to drill out the rivets, and that creates a slightly bigger hole on this end. So I'm going to drop down to a 13/64 to drill these out. The fastener is going to have a head on it, so it should be able to cover the 7/32 hole. You know, if not, I could use a tiny washer or something, but realistically speaking, you know, you just have to make sure that this is going to keep this baffle in place, because otherwise it's going to fall into your valve train, which would be a disaster. So, and make quite a racket, I'm sure. Now, yeah, so the bonus about drilling out all of those rivets is now you have a pilot hole to be able to drill your hole to be tapped, so should not be very difficult. Okay, so as far as tapping the holes, you're gonna have quite a bit of holes to tap here. Keep in mind that aluminum is very soft, so be a little gentle with this, or you're gonna end up stripping the threads out of these things. So what you're gonna do, I'll take some of the guesswork out for you. So you're gonna go pick up some metric screws with a nice wide head to accommodate the drilled out baffles. Okay, so that will very easily fill those holes. Now you might have to ream them out just slightly with a metric number 5 screw. This is what they're going to look like. Okay, so what they are is M5 by 0.8, and I wouldn't be drilling to the center of the earth with this thing, because there's always a concern that you're going to come out on the other side of the casting, so you got to be a little bit cautious here. So what you're going to do is you're going to drill a pilot hole with an 11/64 drill bit. You're going to use an M5 by 0.8 tap, and you're just going to hand tap these holes. And then you're going to put the baffles back on, throw some red Loctite in there, and cinch them up. It's as simple as that. They don't need to be over tightened. That red Loctite will help you out. And realistically, as long as you're careful, you're going to be able to create some nice threads.
Okay, so I welded on the fittings onto the valve cover. So some of the valve cover is 1/4 inch aluminum, so I had to crank my welder up a little bit to get some penetration. So my welding skills are not a 10 out of 10, certainly not Instagram welds, but
they do get the job done. So okay, so the fittings are on there. Yeah, so now I have to deal with the baffles, and now that I'm done sanding, metalwork, stripping this thing, now I gotta give it a good clean, because look at all this junk in here. So that's the idea of removing the baffles. If you have to do any sort of metalwork or grinding, the residue inside the baffles just holds absolutely everything. So you can see this on the baffles as well, like, because there's a little bit of oil on everything, it'll just grab any sort of dirt or metal. So now, prior to painting, I'm going to reassemble this, simply because I don't want to be handling fresh paint and flipping the thing over and trying to work on it. I would rather do it at this point. So I'm going to clean everything. I'm going to reinstall the baffles with red Loctite and my fasteners that I bought. These guys right here, which I tapped already. And then it'll be time for paint. Okay, so we're all cleaned up here. Clean the baffles. Now next what we're going to do is, well, I already did. We put silicone around the edges. Okay, baffles back in. Alright, now next, use my red Loctite, my new machine screws, and tighten this down. Alright, so baffles back in, all buckled up. Now we'll finish doing some prep so that this can be primed properly.
Alright guys, thanks for checking out the video today. This is going to be part 1 out of 2 of this valve cover refurb. So make sure that you check me out on Instagram at Wrench Rampage, and please come back to this page when part 2 is released. Thanks for your time. Have a good night.